Barcelona, a city that never sleeps, becomes the setting for a night that Angela Vidal, the intrepid journalist, and her cameraman Pablo will never forget. Both work on the show While You Sleep, a program that explores the darkest corners of nightlife. On this occasion, they decide to delve into a fire station to capture the essence of their work during the night of service. However, what begins as a routine coverage turns into an unimaginable nightmare. Suddenly, a piercing alarm breaks the silence. Angela and Pablo, driven by curiosity and journalistic duty, follow two firefighters to an old and gloomy building, where two police officers have also arrived. The call for help comes from an elderly woman, Conchita, whose heart-wrenching screams have alerted the neighbors. In the lobby, a group of residents gathers, confused and scared. An elderly couple, Mari Carmen and her daughter Jennifer, Cesar, a Japanese family, and the administrator Jaume. The air is thick with tension, as if the building itself were breathing fear. Forcing the door of Conchita's apartment, the group encounters a nightmarish scene. The elderly woman, covered in dried blood and with bulging eyes, lets out a blood-curdling scream. In an instant, she lunges at Officer Vicente, sinking her teeth into his neck with inhuman ferocity. Chaos erupts. The group flees in panic, dragging the injured policeman to the lobby, where a veterinarian tries to save his life, but the blood loss is too much. Despair takes hold of everyone. Meanwhile, the firefighter Alex, who had stayed behind in the apartment, is brutally thrown down the stairs by Conchita, ending up seriously injured. The building becomes a death trap when the authorities seal it off, declaring it under quarantine. The cold and distant voice that resonates from a megaphone announces that an unknown and lethal virus has been unleashed in the place. Panic spreads like wildfire among the residents, who feel abandoned to their fate. In a desperate attempt to regain control, firefighter Manu, police officer Sergio, Angela, and Pablo return to the elderly woman's apartment. What they find is a scene of pure horror. Conchita, now a grotesque and deranged creature, attacks them with supernatural strength. 3 shots rang out in the air, and the old woman fell to the ground, but the feeling of relief was fleeting. The building remains sealed, the virus lurks, and the night seems endless. Fear, despair, and astonishment intertwine in a macabre dance, as everyone wonders if they will ever see the light of day again. Frustration turns into despair when they discover, with a knot in their stomach, that all exits and windows have been hermetically sealed. The authorities, cold and distant, order them to wait for a health officer, warning them under no circumstances to attempt to leave the building. The air becomes heavy, laden with anguish and fear. The wounded, along with the terrified tenants, take refuge in a textile workshop on the ground floor, a place that should be safe but now feels like a trap. Angela and Pablo, driven by a journalistic instinct they cannot suppress, decide to interview the residents, seeking answers amidst the chaos. It is then that Mari Carmen and Jennifer, with trembling voices, reveal to them that their dog, Max, had mysteriously fallen ill days before and had been taken to the veterinarian. The mention of the dog awakens a sinister unease, as if it were the key piece of a cursed puzzle. Suddenly, Leandro, the health officer, arrives, wrapped in a protective suit that makes him look more like a specter than a savior. With a chilling coldness, he examines the injured and forbids Angela and Pablo from continuing to film. But curiosity and the instinct for survival drive them to spy through a small opening in a window. What they see leaves them paralyzed with horror. Sergio, Leandro, Manu, and Jaume handcuff Alex and Vicente, the injured, and inject them with a mysterious serum. Minutes later, the two men rise with inhuman violence and attack Jaume, tearing his flesh with a ferocity that seems otherworldly. The others flee, leaving Jaume to his fate, while the echo of his screams resonates through the building. Leandro, cornered by the truth, finally confesses with a trembling voice. The night before, the authorities had discovered the contagion, a virus that spreads through saliva. It all started with a call from a veterinarian, who described a terrifying case. A dog, after falling into a deep coma, woke up transformed into a bloodthirsty beast, attacking other animals in the clinic. It was necessary to fill it with tranquilizers and sacrifice it to stop it. The dog's chip led them to that building. And the dog, the source of all this hell, was Max, Jennifer's beloved companion. The revelation hits like a sledgehammer. The building is no longer just a trap, it is a living hell, where the virus lurks in every shadow and death seems to be the only way out. Fear takes hold of everyone as they wonder who will be the next to fall. Despair, horror, and astonishment mix into a toxic cocktail, as the building becomes a tomb for the living and the dead alike. Mari tries to defend her little girl, but Jennifer, after spitting blood in her face, with a swift movement frees herself and runs screaming up the stairs. The mother is handcuffed to prevent her from following. Sergio, Manu, and Pablo chase the girl, who has hidden in Conchita's apartment. Upon entering the apartment, the girl ends up biting Sergio, who stops her, allowing the rest of the group to escape. They manage to go down after definitively eliminating the old woman, but they see that the infected locked in the textile laboratory are about to break free and that their only option is to abandon the handcuffed woman. They then manage to lock themselves in one of the apartments along with Cesar, Angela, and Leandro. They manage to get to safety, but Leandro claims to have been bitten and, as a precaution, locks himself in a storage room. Cesar reveals that there is a possible escape, an underground passage under the textile laboratory that leads to the city's drainage canals, but to open the door they need the key that is in Jaume's apartment. Cesar is attacked by Leandro, so Angela, Pablo, and Manu hurry to search Jaume's apartment. In the attempt to stop one of the infected, Manu falls behind while Angela and Pablo, after rummaging through the apartment, find a bunch of keys but don't know which one they need. Back on the stairs, the two look towards the first floor and discover that all the people have already been infected and are quickly climbing up to reach them. Angela and Pablo manage to take refuge just in time in the attic, where they find a medical laboratory abandoned for years, with walls covered in sacred images, crucifixes, and newspaper clippings about an old case of Tristana Medeiros, a Portuguese girl, of whom there are also several yellowed photographs over time. Thanks to some recordings and various diaries, Pablo and Angela discover that the resident was Father Albelda, a Vatican priest doctor who had locked the girl in the attic, taken from the hospital where she was interned because she was believed to be possessed, to understand if it was possible to cure her with a scientific method. Fast-forwarding the tape, it is discovered that Albelda had managed to isolate an enzyme in the hope of creating a vaccine, but it was very unstable and mutated upon contact with air, leading to the conclusion that this disease was as contagious as the flu. From the following recordings, the two discover that Albelda had not managed to cure her and, after receiving a telegram from Rome indicating that Tristana had to die and that the church had decided to erase any trace of this story forever, he had simply decided to abandon her, sealing all exit routes so that she, patient zero, could not infect anyone. Inexplicably, the girl, now grown up, is still alive. Towards the end of the recording, a hatch opens from the attic and Pablo, trying to see what was in the attic, receives a blow to the camera from a child hidden in it, who breaks the flashlight. Using night vision, the two manage to see Tristana, who, now transformed into a skeletal and monstrous being, armed with a hammer, begins to search every corner to find them. Pablo and Angela begin to move silently in the darkness of the laboratory, but they are discovered and Pablo is killed. Angela retrieves the camera, but it falls when she is chased by the monster. In the end, Angela is seen screaming as she is dragged by the legs into the darkness.